You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk. It's a podcast. It's a magazine. No, it's a podzine.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Podzine, dated the 22nd October 2007. Yes, welcome once again to the Podzine, and thank you everybody who's been dropping us emails to say how much they enjoyed the first of our weekly shows that we're now attempting to keep the ball rolling. And so thanks to everyone. This is of course your magazine show. It's an audio magazine show for all outdoors people, be they walkers, hikers, cyclists, kayakers, climbers, bushcraft people or whatever. Let's all get together and enjoy the great outdoors and share information, enthusiasm and inspire each other. That's what it's all about, inspiration. Definitely thanks to the bloggers and various forums users and general listeners everywhere who've been passing the message on and spreading the gospel about these weekly shows, and certainly we've been getting a lot of increased downloads. The figures have definitely been going up as a result, so thank you everybody for your assistance in that, and do keep spreading the word. It's early days yet. We need to get this out to as many people as we can. Now, also it's quite interesting that a few of the independents have contacted us, and just to double check what we said on the previous show, the last show, about the fact that you can play these podcasts in a shop and there is no need to be concerned about PRS licenses. That is correct. All the music and all the contents on these shows are PRS free, as it were, and therefore they cannot levy a license fee against it. So any problems, shove them in my direction and I shall tell them what for. But you're completely clear. So by all means, play these to your customers and hopefully inspire them to buy some goodies and get out there. What else? Yes, we've had a few new listeners contact us as well, saying thank you very much. We didn't realise you were there. Well, that's perfectly all right. We're doing our best. There's a whole range of other programmes to listen to, and people seem to be enjoying everything from kayaking to cycling and so on from various people we've spoken to. Of course, if you have anything you want to tell us and that you want us to pass on to listeners, you can contact our voicemail service and leave a message, which is 020 8133 9434, and of course all the details will be on the outdoorstation.co.uk website if you need to have a quick look and remind yourself of the number. The competition winners, well, congratulations to last week's winners. They won the Go Light hats in rapid time, and within a good 2 or 3 days they had all gone. So congratulations those people, and I'm sure you're enjoying your new Go Light hats. We do of course have a competition at the end of this show, and we'll tell you all about that a bit later on. What else have we got? Well, we've actually got a couple of interviews. We're interviewing Wild Country about their new 2008 range, and the same with Leki as well. There's been various changes which I'm sure will be of interest. Last week we looked at a couple of magazines, and this week we're looking at a couple of books, hopefully books which may inspire you to add them to your Christmas list, or the Christmas list of a very good friend who will loan you the books afterwards, because they're a couple of good ones. So I think you'll enjoy those. Now, 2008 is obviously looming, and the trade are all gearing up for next year's items, one of which is Wild Country. There's some very interesting new products coming through from Wild Country, so I spoke to Carolyn Budding at a recent trade show to ask her to explain some of the more exciting products.
Wild Country Limited are a company that makes climbing equipment, but about 15 years ago it also had a tent division or tent part, and that tent part actually split off from Wild Country and became known as Terra Nova Equipment. So people who've got a really, really old Wild Country tent would now really be the same positioning and quality as the Terra Nova tents now. When the tent division split off, it couldn't be called Wild Country, so it changed its name to Terra Nova Equipment. And about 10 years ago, the company decided to buy the licence to use the name Wild Country on tents and have a second brand. So Terra Nova tents are the premium branded tents now, and Wild Country was introduced as a good quality range, but probably more affordable price for people.
Okay, so we've got the Wild Country and the sort of the affordable range there, and as you say, Terra Nova are well known for their high quality, lightweight tents. Now, I'd like to talk to you a bit about the Wild Country tents for 2008 here at the show, because you seem quite excited about some of the technology that's actually moved across from the Terra Nova designs into Wild Country designs.
Yes, I think in doing the development for 2008, we really wanted to create more of an identity for Wild Country. I think in the past, it's always played second fiddle to Terra Nova, and we've resisted putting some of the Terra Nova technology into Wild Country just to try and keep the two brands separate. But this time we'll find things like DAC poles, which were introduced into the Terra Nova range a couple of years ago. They're now in some of the new tents for Wild Country, really to help with the weight saving. And we've now got a really good range of backpacking tents, which are cracking weight and really good value prices as well. So as far as sort of pre-season order goes, they've gone down very well, and I know a lot of the journalists are interested as well. So hopefully we'll see some reviews.
Excellent. Well, let's have a look at the choice bits and pieces from the sort of the first handful of the range, and people can start looking out for them for next year. You've got a nice solo tent there, which is actually sub 2K, which is a great achievement for the sort of price band.
It is, yes. It's £120 and 1.9 kilos packed weight, which is great. We worked quite hard to make sure we could get the weight down. It's not a small tent by any means. There's plenty of room in there. There's lots of headroom and shoulder room. We've designed the poles so that it's quite wide at the top of the tent, and also at the back of the tent that it is quite upright, and you can lose quite a lot of space at the back of the tent with the poles and the fly sheets sort of going at quite an angle down, but this is quite upright, so you've got plenty of room for your feet, and we can use all that precious floor space.
So looking at the dimensions there on the diagrams, you've got sort of a 2.2 there, so suitable for somebody sort of over 6 foot, which is usually, I mean, as somebody on that sort of always over the top end there, you're quite right, the sloping foot always does limit your space.
So it does make it slightly more usable for larger people, which might have been a bit of a problem before. The inner also comes out slightly at the front, but it can be pegged back if you need more porch space. There's a little bit more space in the inner if you want to, just to pull that forward under the porch. And
is this similar all the way through the range, the reflective zips and so on?
Yeah, we've got reflective trim down the zips, reflective guy lines, and also the tabs that the tapes that hold the clips onto the poles. We've got external poles on the range. They're all reflective, and we lent it to somebody who went off to Africa, not the solo light but the duo light, and he was really pleased. It said the best thing was coming back in the dark to a tent, he was just flashing his torch around and he could see his tent instantly, whereas everybody else was searching for some time. So he was, I think, in his tent and in his sleeping bag by the time they'd found their tent. So he said that was, a real good selling point.
Yeah, the Duralight, talking about that, I see that's a two-person tent, and that's sort of a geodesic in style, but a very unusual pole design there, but plenty of porch space again.
Again, plenty of porch space, flexible opening of the doors as well, so you can either go in sort of sideways. So depending if you want to cook, you can sort out different sheltering arrangements for cooking. But yes, we've got external poles, which is something we haven't done before on the Wild Country range, which I think it makes them look a bit more technical as well. Obviously there's the function there, but they do look the part as well.
Well, it certainly also gives you a bit more space inside the outer tent as well. Once you're inside the tent, it's surprising how much space the poles can take up. So having the material suspended from them is probably quite a practical thing. And also I noticed that from being a Terra Nova tent user, the ability to change the size of the tent to cook, as you quite rightly say, when the wind changes, is an enormous advantage.
Yes, there's quite a lot of flexibility there. And also just going back to the external poles, the thing with having the external pole attachments is that the inners come attached to the fly sheet, so it makes it much quicker to pitch. Unless, of course, you want to split the weight between two and you need to split the inner and the fly sheet. But it just means you've got, once the fly sheet's up, your tent's practically ready to use.
Yeah, well, I see it's a 3-4 season. What sort of weight are we talking about and price on that?
The Duo Light, 2.4 kilos packed, so that's just over a kilo each if you're splitting the weight. That's £140 retail, so really good price point.
Yeah, very respectable. Now, this tarp, this is coming in from Europe now, these additional tarps to go over the front of these tents. Tell me a bit more about that.
That was just really to provide a bit more flexibility with the Duo Light. Just basically it's a sheet of fabric which we can clip onto the front pole and then pull out at the front just with a small pole for support, just to give a bit more porch space without having to go for the next version up of the tent, which is the Duo Light Tourer, which has a really big porch on the front. So it's just if the weather's bad and you need a bit more covered space, then you do have that flexibility as well.
Now, one of the most important things on a backpacking tent, solo or duo, is obviously the length the poles will fold down to when they're packed away. What's the story on the Solo Light and the Duo Light?
Well, the Solo Light, Duo Light and the Duo Light Tourer all have poles that pack down to 38 centimetres, which means they'll fit in a pannier. Particularly important for the Duo Light Tourer, which we've designed really as a touring tent, so you can fit your bikes in the porch and easily get in and out as well once you've got all your kit in there. So that's great for people who are off cycling. Or, if you want a bit more space, it's still not, too heavy a tent. It's 2.9 kilos, so just under 3. It's not, a really sort of massive weight. But also it'd be a great tent if you just stuck it in the back of the car, because there's loads of space, as I say, for the porch. If the weather's bad, you've got lots of kit to store. Yeah, certainly. I mean, looking at the Duo Light Tourer there, you've got space certainly for one bike in the front and possibly two. Yes, yeah. We've had one indefinitely, and I'm sure you could squeeze two in there. And the porch actually opens at the front to make it easier to put the bikes in. We have a side opening door, but I say it will open at the front just so you can slide the bikes in without having to sort of bend them round corners.
Very respectable. Now, you're saying the Duke of Edinburgh, going further up the range now towards the family-sized tents, but there's the Duke of Edinburgh one you reckon the tri-space is suitable for?
Yes, we designed the tri-space specifically for group and centre use, so for groups like the Duke of Edinburgh's Award or centres who are taking out groups of children. It's a 3-person tent. It's a tunnel tent, and we've got a really big porch, but also there is an exit and venting facilities at the back as well, just to provide a bit of extra flexibility. We've improved the specification on the ground sheet, making it more robust. We've got thicker poles and heavier gauge zips, so it's suitable for really sort of fairly continuous use with groups of children.
And still coming in at a very respectable sort of 3.5K.
Yes, yeah. So by the time you split that up between 3, it's it's a huge weight for each of them to carry.
Well, obviously, beyond that, then we're going into the family-based tents, and I don't want to go into too much details on those because it's a whole new market and comparisons. But the response you've had, you were saying, for those first handful we just looked at has been very good. And when can people expect to see these now?
We'll be getting deliveries in sort of February time, so from sort of March onwards they'll be in the shops.
So March 2008, people can get some very, very good value for money lightweight tents. Yeah,
very good. So the reception's been very good for them, so we're expecting great things.
The Podzine.
So let's now have a look at a couple of books which have recently come our way, which I think you might be interested in, possibly for Christmas. You're putting on your Christmas list, I think, with Christmas looming. The first one, actually, I've really grown great attachment to. It's comes under the title of An Easy Nature Guide by Neil Fletcher, and it's an easy wild food guide. Just slightly over sort of A5 size. It slips into the old pocket very easily, and it's a fresh approach to finding food in the wild and enjoying it, covering plants, trees, fungi and the seashore, and it makes nice use of photographs and paintings to make identifying food from the wild easier than ever. Now, what makes this fairly unique is, rather than it sort of clumping them all together as some of these books do and possibly confusing you about when is the best time to look for a certain plant or a certain mollusk or whatever it might be, it's actually been broken down season by season. And not only that, each section or each plant or mushroom or seafood or whatever. Also contains a small map about indicating whereabouts you might find it in Europe, which is quite useful. The typical type of habitat that the item concerned would be normally found in, and the typical flowering time in the case of flowers and hedgerow and whatever it might be. And then on top of that, there's also each one has a little recipe, which I think is very, very attractive actually. So you've got all sorts of things from herbs and spices right through to naturally the fungus. There's a lot of fungi in here, which obviously many people, myself included, you do tend to see it and go, now can't I eat it? Will it kill me at 100 paces? And then you've got things like berries, the natural ones you might know, and then you've got, there's all sorts of stuff in here. Dog rose, elderberry, sloes, good recipe for sloe gin in here. Trees, lime trees, wild service trees, sweet chestnut, hazel, again, things that you can possibly recognise, but not too sure which part of it you can eat, be it the leaves or whatever. And then when it gets to the seafood food, you've got sort of shrimps, common prawns, crabs, various mollusks, whelks and so on, as well as a good suggestion of how to catch them. And there's one here that I've been looking for many years and never been quite confident to work out which one it is, which is chicken in the woods, or chicken of the woods rather, which apparently has a fantastic taste, and it indicates quite clearly what it should look like, where I can find it, and also how I can eat it. So a very, very useful book, the sort of book that it's nice to have in your pocket when you're just going out for a walk through the fields, rather than a sort of a high level walk, but one that's worthwhile leaving in the car just in case inspiration takes you. So as I say, it's called Easy Wild Food Guide, written by Neil Fletcher. It's available on Aurum, AURUM is the publisher. Full retail on that is $12.99, and I notice on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the show notes, it's for about £8.50. You can get it from Amazon at the moment. So really enjoyed that book, a very, very nice one. I always have that by the bed and pick it up. Now the other one which has come my way, which is a monster of a book, but incredibly inspirational, is the Trekking Atlas of the World, an illustrated reference guide to the best treks, featuring 54 long-distance treks from 6 continents. Trekking Atlas of the World offers a selection of treks over remote and rugged terrain, as well as those that require little more than a pair of sturdy boots and a sense of adventure. The appendix offers essential information on each trail, whether you are planning it on your own or through an agent. Now, the author, Jack Jackson, has gathered together 54 descriptions of some key trails from some very well-known authors, each with their own style and own description, and names that immediately I recognise here are Judy Armstrong, Paddy Dillon, Tom Hutton, Chris Townsend, Ronald Turnbull, Hamish Brown, and there's lots of other people on here, male and female as well. You've got Kathy Jarvis, Kate Clow, Fiona McIntosh, and many, many more. And they all write in a very, very charming way. The pictures are to die for, and it's the first time I've probably seen a trekking atlas, trekking book of the world, and certainly started to think, well, actually, I quite fancy that. That looks like a really nice trip, and it's real people doing it real time, as it were. There's no brochure type photography. This is getting out and doing it properly. So I've thoroughly enjoyed having this book. Apparently it came out last year, and it's not cheap. I mean, it's a £35 book, but once again I notice Amazon have got it at £24 at the moment. So certainly one for the Christmas list potentially, are under the tree. But that's a lovely coffee table book. But I certainly wouldn't put it in your pocket when you're going for a hike. But the other one, the Wild Food Guide, is a fascinating read. So that's that covered the books. Now let's move on to our next interview, which is going to be with Lillian Sullivan, who is the distributor for Leki. And I caught up with Lillian a few days ago and asked her what is coming in the 2008 range for Leki.
Well, we've quite a lot of new products in the Leki range, from the grips right down through to the anti-shock systems. Most of the poles now also have new graphics, so the range looks different as well as actually having new technology. The main thing with the technology, we've got a new soft anti-shock light where the anti-shock locking mechanism has been moved from the midsection down to the bottom, where it's a smaller section, so it's lighter. It only has a 10mm travel, so you no longer have to either choose to have the anti-shock on or off. It's on all the time, but because of the elastomer in the anti-shock mechanism, it acts like a dampener, not like a spring, so it really does absorb the shock. Because it's in the bottom, smaller section, it's lighter. The main advantage to the end user is it actually packs 5 centimetres shorter. So for those that want to travel more with their poles, they do pack smaller to go into the sack.
Certainly, looking at them compressed down, they 5 centimetres doesn't sound like an awful lot, but it does make a big difference when you're putting them inside the pack, doesn't it?
It does, yes. It makes a big difference for getting the pack shut and the lid properly over the top. And in many cases, they'll fit into suitcases now as well if you pack them diagonally.
Excellent. The ladies' range looks very fetching, I have to say.
Well, yes. Finally, we've got a specific ladies' range within the Leki family. More and more ladies want lady-specific products, even though technically it's exactly the same as the man's, except the maximum length only goes up to 125 centimetres. So it doesn't go as long as the man's, working on the assumption that the majority of ladies are a little bit shorter.
And of course then the weight's not there as well.
Exactly, it's a bit lighter, nicer lighter weight colours, but it does mean the shops can offer a specific product, especially for the lady, who doesn't necessarily want maybe more darker or more aggressive colours.
Sure. Now, is the hand grip specifically designed for the ladies? Because obviously ladies' hands are smaller than men's mostly.
It's 3mm smaller than on our premium range, which is the 18mm shaft, but it's the same grip as used on the 16mm ultralight range, which is a smaller grip anyway, because it's designed for lighter people or for people under 6 foot. So, for instance, a big man, especially in the winter, would find the ultralight range, maybe the grip would be too small anyway. So that grip fits most women very, very well.
And you look like you've got a sort of an emergency release facility on the top of these, all the poles across the range now?
Pretty much all of the poles. The only ones that don't have it on are the entry-level poles, which use the classic technology, not the super locking system.
So show me how this works then.
It's like a flip lock on the top. It's very, very simple. You pull it up, put your hand in, adjust the strap by pulling on the bottom section until it's snug around the wrist and supporting the hand. Use your thumb to click back down and it's locked. So whilst ever you're walking, that's not going to creep loose. It's going to stay exactly where you've set it. But should that catch down in a cattle grid or get stuck in rocks and you fall, as you come up, that opens and automatically releases the hand and the wrist from the strap to avoid injury.
It's it's a similar sort of technology presumably to ski boots when you fall on the ski boots.
Yes, it is. It's like a quick release binding for the hand.
But it's the slip. I mean, there's no travel at all when it's actually locked down when you're walking.
Once it's locked down, it's completely pinched in there.
Excellent. The Leki range has obviously had the walking shaft, the walking handle poles as a popular model in the range. Is that still continuing from 2008?
Yes, very much so. The Wunderfround is extremely popular. It's been in the range forever. But what they've done this year, this also gets a makeover. On the anti-shock version, we've got the anti-shock in the middle section. The whole shaft is now 16mm, not 18mm, so it's much lighter. That doesn't really affect this type of user because they tend to use it at a walking stick length, so it's lower than 90 degrees. So it doesn't matter how much weight they put on it, that flex angle doesn't really come into it. So it's still perfectly strong enough, still have 140 kilograms locking on that mechanism, but it's in a lighter weight shaft so that the older or the people who particularly like this type of pole can also benefit from weight saving.
And I see right at the end you're still doing the photographic pole.
We're still doing the photographic pole, and I'm pleased to say that it now goes 5 centimetres longer, so the taller people don't have to get a sore back to bend over and look through the viewfinder.
And that's just has a removable wooden knob at the top,
yes, yeah.
Which is a standard camera thread underneath. Well, fantastic. What's the response been like for 2008 for people placing orders for these?
It's been excellent. Forward order book is very good, and I think particularly on the graphics, it's been very, very welcomed by the outdoor trade, because some of them were beginning to look a little bit dated, and you'll see here these new rich graphics are very, very attractive without being at all garish.
So what's happening soon in the great outdoors? The Podzine Diary.
Well, there is stacks going on in the great outdoors, and I've got a long list to get through here, so I'm going to race through as fast as I can. First of all, a useful piece of information to encourage people to get out more. 77% of all UK adults, apparently, that's 38 million people, say they walk for pleasure at least once a month. And the Ramblers Association membership has risen from 38,000 in 1980 to over 140,000 today, so that's all very encouraging. Now, talking of walking, the Castle Morpeth Riverside Walking Festival is currently on this week, and it's the annual walking festival that's well established in its 4th year, and the organisers are proud to bring you another week of action-packed walking activities. This year, the festival runs over the October half term for a variety of walks and activities across the borough, as in previous years, the theme is something for everyone, with full and half-day guided walks, park walks for wheelchair users and those with visual impairment. For families, there's a short Pied Piper walk, a kids' lantern walk, and of course children are welcome on guided walks as long as they can cope with the distances covered. There's lots more as well, and so what I suggest you do is, if you're in that area, is get onto the website and get all the information and booking details. And that is castlemorpeth.gov.uk. That's Castlemorpeth, morpeth.gov.uk. Then there's the Roses Walking Festival, October 2007. The festival plans to offer well over 100 walks of different types and lengths spread across the festival area, and these will include everything from an hour's easy stroll near town to some fairly easy half-day walks, right up to medium 7 and 10 mile walks, and 10 to 12 milers, and a few hard 14 mile plus. So they've obviously got a complete range there in those 100 walks. The area has now 20,000 hectares of new access land, mainly on the High Moor, added to the extremely good rights-of-way network already enjoyed, and additional access facilities allowed by the 2 major water companies there. A walker's dreamscape, so the press release says. And the information can be got from Hebden Bridge Tourist Information Centre, which is 01422 843 831. That's 01422 843 831. Plus you've got the Walking West Sussex Festival, again all throughout October. Pull on your walking boots and enjoy the beautiful countryside that West Sussex has to offer. There are usually several walks each day from which to choose, each led by local and knowledgeable guides, including representatives from the National Trust, the Sussex Downs Conservation Board and the Sussex Downsmen. The routes range in difficulty and in length. Some are half day, some are full day, and featured points of interest on the walks have included Pentworth Park, the Temple of the Winds, a favourite spot for Lord Tennyson, and a chance to walk sections of the New Serpent Trail. Obviously, lots of guided walks on this, and the leader will point out various features throughout the walk. So it sounds like if you're in the area, well worth the effort. Where can you get information from? You can download a festival brochure. You can call for a festival brochure on telephone number 01903 812 727. That's 01903 812 727. And I believe walkingwestsussex.co.uk has all the details. It looks like there's a fee of £7.50 for each walk and £20 for unlimited walks. But if you're a great walker, I'm sure that will be of major interest. Certainly on the Ramblers website, There's a festival of winter walks mentioned, and that is ramblers.org.uk. That goes on from Christmas, 26th of December through to January, and the Ramblers' longest running festival of walks designed to take full advantage of the delights of winter walking and make regular exercise a New Year's resolution. And why not? What else have we got? Well, there are other festivals and things going on. This week we're looking at the Falmouth Oyster Festival, if you're in that area. That's just finished, actually, Falmouth Oyster Festival, so I'm sorry to disappoint you on that one. The Mendip Food and Drink Festival, that's more like it. 19th to the 28th of October. Around 60 pubs, restaurants and farm shops will be displaying and serving locally grown produce. Plus there's an apple crushing, farm tours and pumpkin carving. All fun for all the family. And that is mendipfoodfestival.co.uk. That's mendipfoodfestival.co.uk. Then we've got the Wensleydale Craft Fair. Pick yourself up a truly original souvenir on your trip to Wensleydale Craft Fair, which includes exhibitions in calligraphy, wood turning, jewellery, knitwear and pottery. Outdoor stuff there. This is more my stuff. Colchester Oyster Festival. Now, back to oysters again. Events throughout Colchester. This feast is by invitation only, but there are many other events going on at the same time, and you can get information on that on 01206 282208, and the website is oysterfair, spelt FAYRE.flyer.co.uk. And then at the end of October, we've got a couple more, which is cider making demonstrations. Drink with care. Among the National Trust's autumn season of events, we found this one particularly to our taste. Now, it's a Welsh name, which I don't even begin to try and pronounce. Is an 18th century Welsh gentry estate near Aberaeron in Crediton. I can never get Welsh words. Never mind. And it's offering the public a chance to meet local cider experts and watch demonstrations, then sample and take home a drop of the good stuff. And thankfully, the website is a nice, easy one to remember: nationaltrust.org.uk. And that's autumn, as I say, the Welsh cider. Well, there you are. Torchlight Ghost Tours. There's another one here at Kipling Hall, Richmond. Celebrate Halloween in style, or simply scare yourself silly. So it says, at one of Kipling's Hall's Torchlight Ghost Tours. Your guide will take you around the 17th century building, and you'll learn all about the house's history and perhaps even see an apparition or two. The £8 entry fee includes refreshments. Booking is recommended. Ghosts not guaranteed. The website is kiplinhall.co.uk, KIPLIN hall.co.uk, 01748 818 178. That's 01748 818 178. And that pretty well wraps up the diary for this week. Anybody have any news, forthcoming events they want to tell us about, be it forums, gatherings, social events, enjoying local food or tumble fair or whatever it might be, do drop us a line.
The Podzine Diary. If you've got any news or events you'd like us to cover on the Podzine, then contact us at The Outdoor Station. The address is info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Bringing you more about the outdoors world. Call our voicemail service now. 020 8133 9434.
And yes, let's move on to competition time. Congratulations once again to the winners from last week for the Go Light headwear. And this week we've got something donated by a very well-known and well-loved outdoors author, Ronald Turnbull. Yes, we've got 2 signed books from Ronald Turnbull, both great pocket-sized books. One's a sort of a fireside read, and the other one is one you take out with you on the hills. The first one is The Riddle of Sphinx Rock, and that's published by Millrace Books. And the second is 3 Peaks 10 Tours, which is Ronald's latest book. Let's have a quick look at the books themselves so you can whet your appetite for the competition. They're both about the £13 mark. Sphinx Rock, as most people will probably know, is associated with the Lake Districts and the Great Gable. So just to read some of the notes off the book there, grand to look at, grand to look from, and grand to climb. So Gable was described over 100 years ago. It's the hill that's seen the birth of two separate sorts of hill sport, and that today receives 20,000 ascents each year. This book is an exploration of Great Gable, its 11 main ways for walkers, scrambles and its climbs, but it's also a study of what it means to be a mountain in today's world. Life, death and fell walking, the great questions all ask themselves on Great Gable. And first amongst those questions is the riddle of Sphinx Rock. What did we come up here for in the first place? And so it goes on. Ronald Turnbull is a very, very great author. He describes things beautifully, very honestly, and he's got a lovely, wry sense of humour. So it's a thunderously good read, any of his books and any of his articles. But that's a nice one, and that's what I'd call a fireside book, or one for the pub after a good day's walk up in the Lake District. The other book, 3 Peaks 10 Tours, is quite a useful one actually, especially for people considering long distance walks of any kind, long distance and challenging walks in the UK, tools, techniques, routes and reminiscences. It's a book that looks at both the serious and humorous look at what it takes to do a long distance or challenging walk, the mental toughness, the experience, the slight madness, plus notes on planning and undertaking the best routes. Ronald Turnbull, veteran of many a long distance walk and challenge walks, intersperses sound advice with wry recollections of his experience on the National 3 Peaks Challenge and other such routes throughout the British Isles. For aspiring and novice long distance walkers, this guide provides tips on how to minimise the suffering, to stay safe, to raise money for charity perhaps, and to find a surprising amount of enjoyment along the way. 15 long distance and challenging routes are covered in this book. It's got a lovely waterproof cover. As I say, it makes it ideal for outdoors use. It's full of information, maps, pictures, hints and tips, and practical things as well. So it's got every sort of aspect covered there to give you whet your appetite for where you might be going. And it covers a big distance, everywhere from Cornwall, from Dartmoor, right up to the Cairngorms. And he touches on the National 3 Peaks, the Yorkshire 3 Peaks, the Lancashire 3 Peaks, and the 3 Peaks of Somerset, 10 Tours, Lyke Wake Walk, Derwent Watershed, across Wales Walk, Larry Grew, 50 from your front door, do it yourself, Welsh 3000ers, Lakes 3000ers, the Cumbria Old Country Tops, the Cairngorm 4000ers, the Mourne Seven Sisters, and Tranter's Walk. So, as I say, a massive amount in there, and I'm sure well within any of them are well within access of most people in the UK. So, both very, very enjoyable reads, both signed by the author Ronald Turnbull, and both valued around the £13 mark. So, what's the question? Well, it's going to be very, very quick and very, very simple, and it needs to be answered fairly rapidly. The email address to send your answer to, I'll tell you that first rather than the question because it's going to be quick, is Ronald Turnbull -competition at theoutdoorstation.co.uk. That's Ronald Turnbull -competition theoutdoorstation.co.uk, and the previous competition is now closed as all the prizes have gone, as I expect this to do very, very quickly. It's a simple question on one that will involve a small amount of research, but I'm sure you can soon get that done, and that is, in what year did Ronald win the Fell Running Association's long distance trophy for a 10-day run over all the hills of southern Scotland? What year did Ronald win the Fell Running Association's long distance trophy for a 10-day run over all the hills of southern Scotland? And a little bit of research, and I'm sure you can dig that information up. Please send me your answer straight to that web address, and specify which book you prefer. As I say, I've only got 2 copies, so they will shortly go. And that pretty well wraps up this week's show. Looking forward to next week's. We've got more interviews with various people associated with the outdoors. Certainly anybody has information about any forthcoming events coming over the next 4 weeks or so, do drop me a line. I'm glad to promote that and support that. And once again, listeners, if you wouldn't mind, do pass these podcasts on to other people interested in the outdoors, your local retailer, anybody at all really who might find the information useful and a way of sharing enthusiasm. Well, that about wraps it up for us. We're going to make a move now and start preparing for next week's show.
This independent programme has been brought to you by The Outdoors Station, the exciting new way to see and hear free information about the outdoors world. If you're a blogger, or if you have a website, you can now incorporate any of these podcasts directly to your site, completely free. Visit our website, theoutdoorstation.co.uk, for more information.